Welcome to RootBound Studio. As you know, we do a quarterly newsletter on the solstice, and this year we've decided to omit one of the articles and try something a little bit live. So this is a live article from the RootBound newsletter. And so this is March, it's spring, and the backstory to today's topic starts at the Chelsea Flower Show last year, where I was by myself, and I wanted to bring Lani back something from the flower show, so I got her a subscription to the English Garden, which is a great magazine. But I'm the one who really reads it, and I'm the one who uses it, so it ended up being a present for me, so this year I'll do a better job of it. But in the last month's English Garden, one of the pieces they had was on what's popping up, or I can't remember the title of the article, but it basically had to do with spring bulbs. And it just so happens right now we have some spring bulbs starting to pop up on the warm side of our house. We've got daffodils back in there, right? Mm-hmm. And we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what spring bulbs are like, how to use them, how to plant them, where to plant them, creative uses, how they work botanically. And generally, I guess it would be good to start with the species in Michigan that we can commonly use and see. Yeah. Here in Michigan, there's a good handful that bring us some color early in the season when we're really desperate for it. Crocus is a really great one. Comes in white, blue, and yellow. Mm-hmm. They're pretty short, so they're very low to the ground. Snowdrops is another good one, probably earlier in the season. Winter aconite is one of the first ones that come out. They're yellow. Very early in the season. Mm-hmm, very early. Yeah. Daffodils is a really great one, especially because if you've got a lot of deer on your property, they tend to be one that the deer don't browse. Tulips are very well known here in our part of Michigan because Holland, Michigan has a big tulip festival. The deer will eat the tulips, but they are beautiful. Allium, like the big Globemaster allium, are really fun to add to the landscape. And then later spring, iris, you really tend to think of those not as really a spring bulb, but they do bloom later in the spring. And we did just walk outside, and you did just say that your iris are starting to pop up. Yep. So not too late, but certainly not as early as some of the others. Mm-hmm. The botanical backstory, which might even help build a little bit of perspective on how they get used inside of a landscape, is that these fall into a category of what we call spring ephemerals. And spring ephemerals basically are a plant whose life cycle rotates around that early season in the woods before the leaves come on the trees. So they pop up, they go through their life cycle like trillium and like mayapple. And once they get to a point where they've kind of gotten through their life cycle and they're not generating nearly as much photosynthesis, that's right about when the leaves on the trees come in. So they're usually kind of like, in the wild, they would be a woodland type of setting, low, flat, wetter areas. And then they just fill that niche between winter and when spring flowers really begin to start in the botanical scheme of things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we use them in the landscape in a number of places. Yeah, ornamentally, there's a lot of places to incorporate them in your own yards. Lawns is kind of a traditional place to put them. You know, our lawn here, we don't, it's not a golf course by any stretch. It's not a super tended lawn. On purpose. Much to your chagrin. No, on purpose. But lawns are a great place to have some bulbs come up. Crocus specifically, mm-hmm. I see a lot in lawns. Kind of early before you start to mow. Yep. You get a little bit of color. Exactly. And then when you're ready to start mowing, it's kind of an easy way to cut off spent flower heads. And because we now know that they live that life cycle and start to like kind of come to a retreat when leaves come on, you're mowing your lawn right around about when botanically they're starting to like slow down. Exactly. Yep. I love to see them in planter boxes of any size, shape. You can layer them in the planter boxes or pots, and your earlier ones and then later ones, and that kind of keeps the succession going through the spring. That's a great way to incorporate them. Any of your flower beds, perennial beds, landscape beds, we like to plan them in the landscape interplanted with perennials. So like the lawn, like we were just saying, when the bulbs are done in those borders where you may have daylily or echinacea or some of the other later summer flowering, bulbs come up, and then you've got color in the spring in that area of your landscape. And then when they're kind of done doing their thing, then your perennials are coming up, and you've got long season of bloom in that area of your yard. Another, which you kind of already touched on, another area is taking advantage of the warm exposure, sun exposure of your house or garage or buildings. We have a brick Tudor house, and the southern exposure tends to have things happen earlier in the landscape. That's where we're seeing some of our things pop up now.
Easy place to see them locally. You mentioned Holland.
Yeah, Holland,
Tulip
Michigan.
Festival.
Fernwood Botanical Garden is a great spot.
Yeah, they've got an area where they're all layered in there, and the winter aconites are probably starting to come up now.
Huge show of winter aconites.
And then there'll be some snowdrops. Yeah, and they've just got this woodland area where they just cycle through probably a month or so.
Yeah,
of
probably
different color.
Surrett is another area, maybe not quite as showy. Meyer Gardens a little further north would be another good spot.
You mentioned layering them in planters. I've also seen people take like daffodil bulbs and plant some an inch deep and then some 2 inches deep below it and some a little bit deeper below that, so that as they come up, even the daffodils go through like a bloom cycle just based on bloom depth.
So where are some good places we can send people to purchase?
Yeah, so last weekend, Lani and I went on a purchasing spree, and we broke the rules. So, of course, the rules are buy them in the fall, plant them in the fall. Bulbs all have to go through stratification, which is a cold dormancy. So daffodils have to be cold, 30 degrees, 35 degrees for 30 days, give or take. Every bulb has different requirements for its winter dormancy period that it has to live through before it'll start to push up and bloom. So typically people buy them in the summer and then plant them in the fall, and then the next spring they start to get a color, and then they're perennial after that. This year we've gone through 2 spells of buying bulbs, one for a propagation class that I'm doing, and we bought daffodils and crocuses. You buy them by the 100. They're not real expensive. They came and they said that they were not cold treated, and we got them late. We just got them in like February. So they went in my refrigerator downstairs for 30 days, and now they're back at the university ready to be pushing up. So lots of online sources. Really the question is if you get them late, do you have to treat them, or do you go ahead and buy them in the summer or fall and plant them in the summer or fall for the next season? We did get some things at Lowe's and Home Depot. And some of the stuff that we got, one of the things that we got, which is was one interesting piece for a bulb, is an elephant ear. You've probably seen those. And we love to put elephant ear in our pots because they're big and dramatic. I'm going to start those inside. So they're going to go inside. They're really large bulbs.
They're not hardy here.
Not really. If we have like a warmer season or in there on the sunny side, they might be okay. Typically we pull them out in the fall, let them dry out, stick them in the garage where they're not going to freeze solid, and then put them back in.
Like a dahlia.
Exactly. But we bought some new ones, and I'm going to plant them in pots inside so that they get kind of a jump start on the spring, so that when we do move them to the pots, our short Michigan season, they can kind of get going and actually have some showiness. So there's a season to plant them. There are some dormancy requirements that you have to worry about. Starting them inside can hurry things along if there's something that are a little bit not too hardy. What else did we buy last weekend?
It was dahlias.
Liatris.
Yeah.
But liatris usually acts as an actual perennial in our landscape. So
and they're hardy.
Yeah,
so
they're hardy and they act as a perennial. We're starting them also from bulbs. Of course, bulbs in the wintertime in your house are great.
And they can be saved once they're done. Like if you buy something from a florist or something that's gifted to you
Sure.
and it's a bulb that was
Sure.
forced early, you can let them do their thing and just keep them dry and
Like an amaryllis.
yeah, amaryllis, daffodils, any of those.
Right. So yeah, they're a little bit different than your typical perennial or your evergreen shrub. We treat them a little bit differently. They've got different cycles that they have to go through, but at the same time, they bring something to the landscape at a time of year that we don't always get to see something fantastic. And it's kind of a nice way to beckon spring. So that's bulbs. Enjoy, good luck. Give us a call if you need any advice.